I think about my teachers when I was a kid, and I feel so sorry for them. But that is nothing like what Lis Pendley has been through in her book, Thursday's Children. Liz, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can set this up the right way. You're a young teacher in the South, 1969.
Yes.
And you get thrown into this newly desegregated classroom.
Yes.
You call it PS 123.
Yes, made up name.
But the real name would be
No.
But this was in the South.
Yes,
And
deep South.
And the city would be. Really? You're going to be that secretive about this?
I changed all the adult names.
To protect the guilty?
Probably.
Probably.
To begin with, this is my memoir, but it's their story. This is the story of a group of children, Thursday's Children, that I met for the first time in a newly integrated class in a school in the South, elementary school, it's third grade, in 1969.
So you walk in, and first you have to meet with the principal.
I did.
All right. Well, that's always a nice welcoming thing. Elizabeth, we're so glad to have you here. Let me answer some questions about the school, what we're trying to achieve, and bring you up to speed.
It was the most amazing interview I think I've ever had for a job. The first question he asked me was, well, you're white, are you prejudiced? And I didn't answer. I had never been asked anything like that. I was shocked by it. And then he told me, I won't have no uppity white folk in my school. And
that set the perfect tone.
It did set the tone, and as this would have been my third year of teaching.
If you were a little older, you would have said, I'm not prejudiced. Are you? And then I would ask, so if there's no uppity white folk, do you allow uppity black folk? And if so, is that prejudice? Or just no uppity folk at all?
Exactly.
Why was he so protective of this? Why was having a white teacher in this black school concerning?
Well, the teachers were divided about half and half, 50-50 white and black. The students were really predominantly black. In my classroom, I had 14 boys, 13 girls, 21 who walked to school from the welfare projects, which were behind the school, and 6 who were bused in. And that ratio was pretty much the same in all the other grades.
The kids who were bused in, were those all white kids?
Yes.
All right, so this was part of the forced integration idea that we are going to bus kids. And you think about kind of the lottery of that. And I remember as a kid in the early 70s, Denver was playing around with this idea, and it terrified me as a kid to think, wait, I'm going to go to some school that's not part of my neighborhood. And it's not only a lottery winner for the kid from the projects who gets to go out to a better school in Cherry Creek, but it's a lottery in the opposite way for the kid who goes in. So tell me about the classroom. You got in not at the beginning of the year.
No, I didn't. I showed up in the week before Christmas vacation, and I was able to step into the classroom of the teacher who was leaving. Presumably she had had a nervous breakdown, or at least that was what I was told. And when I walked in, I was thinking, this is going to be a little harder. It's the middle of the year, they're used to other routines. And I stepped in, and if you can picture this, John, because I can still see this. 4 boys crawling along the floor, 2 running races around desks, multiples throwing things, dropping things, yelling, screaming. There was a temper tantrum. I'm not sure what caused that. And in the midst of this chaos was this poor woman attempting to give a spelling test, screaming out the words that maybe 3 or 4 very dutiful students were writing down to take
And this
the
is third
test.
grade.
This is third grade, and the ages were 9 to 12, which is an unusual age span. It should only really be 1 or 2 years in
Right.
each grade level. So, yes, and that was the group I inherited. These are Thursday's children.
You call them Thursday's children because?
Mother Goose, nursery rhyme, Thursday's child has far to go.
And these kids
as you
had far to go.
Yes, exactly. And I was totally convinced that they would be able to do this with the correct educational tools.
Do what?
Go far.
Go far.
Yeah, that was the plan.
So I'm just trying to imagine a young, freshly out of college teacher.
That was my third year.
Even if I was a third year, to walk into a classroom that was just like that.
Oh, yes.
Must have been terrifying.
It was daunting. It was concerning, but I was determined. I had 2 goals. One, I was going to teach them discipline. A disciplined child can learn. Without it, you cannot. And 2, I was going to teach basics, reading and math. Reading because 20 of 27 children in my third grade read below grade level. And 4 of them didn't know their alphabet. John, how's that possible?
4 in third grade.
Yes, they had been presumably in school for 3 to 5 years, however long it took them to get to third grade. Yes. So those were my goals, and I was determined to achieve them.
So a couple of things. One, you had goals, and it sounds as though that teachers back then actually had some leeway instead of if that was...
Yes. I think when the door closed to your classroom,
It was your classroom.
It was your classroom.
I'm curious, do you remember your salary?
Oh, $5,000 a year,
$5,000
something
a year.
minimal. And gentlemen made more because they were gentlemen.
Well, and that makes perfect sense to me, and I completely support that.
I thought you might.
All
Okay.
right, so when you're in this class, did the desegregation part of it play into the dysfunction?
Yes.
Did that make it easier for you,
No.
harder for you?
Much harder.
Why?
Well, first,
'Cause
let me describe
Yeah.
Thursday's children. Obviously undisciplined, we've already seen that. But they also showed up hungry. Some of them showed up sick. Many of them showed up needing a bath. They had no pencils, they had no pens. Mostly these are the children from the projects that I'm discussing here, 21 of them. Surly, sullen, prone to temper tantrums, not necessarily focused on learning or that school could be exciting or fun or interesting. That had not been an experience of theirs. And some of them came in abused, no question there. And so did racial tensions play a part? No question. Every decision that was made was in some way skewed to race and race concerns. There was the principal and the office staff. There were parents. There were other teachers. There was the school board and the administration. And then there was me.
When you say racial tensions, what exactly do you mean by that?
Oh, I can give you numerous examples. I had no idea that this would end up being this thick.
Right.
Obviously, numerous examples. Okay, let's start with the principal. And we've already heard my interview. I initially and almost immediately upset him because I went in and asked for reading books that second grade readers and first grade readers and non-readers would be able to use. You could give a Greek track to one of them and do as well with the third grade reader. I needed books geared to the level that they were on. He was very annoyed with me.
And did that have something to do with race?
Yes.
Help me understand that.
You bet. I was showing that these black children were stupid. And I was only saying, look, give me the tools. I can teach them. I can get them on grade level, and from there they can go on. But I need the tools. Absolutely not. His comment, you're teaching third grade. Yes, sir. And you have third grade books. Yes, sir. We're done here. That was it. Another indication.
So in other words, those black kids, 1969, in a third grade class, can't do their ABCs. Can't do.
No, well, four of them.
It's amazing that you remember it in that detail.
I do. I spend hours individually and otherwise working with them. So
the idea was, well, they're already lost.
Oh, and they saw them that way, not me.
If they're already lost at third grade, and you're not going to get them up to third grade speed, they're going to be lost.
They're going to drop out.
They're going to drop out.
They're going to drop out. And what I wanted were children capable of moving forward and improving as they went. Another example of the principal and race indications. We had numerous faculty meetings in which he screamed at all of us for all sorts of kinds of things that he didn't like. But the one main issue in that meeting was no grade lower than a C. No grade lower than a C. And the reason for that, we're not going to be considered stupid.
Even if we are.
You give a grade lower than a C, and you are saying that that black child is stupid. Well, unfortunately, honesty on my part overrode good sense. And the first parent I met came storming in, waving her report card at me. Tanetta had been given an E. Well, an E is this amorphous letter between a D and an F.
Right.
So it's not total flunk, but it's pretty close to total flunk. My reason for the E, and I still remember this because I probably went over it in my mind when he was screaming at me, she was reading at a first grade level, and she was refusing to do any work. Okay, right. So I tried to explain to her mother that her child needed help at home, more help at school, and was reading on a first grade level. Her mother screamed at me that she could never get anywhere with no white honky, and left the room, stomped down to the principal, screamed at him, assured him she was off to the school board. He kind of calmed her down. He came back up the hall and burst into my room and screamed at me, I told you, I warned you, no grade lower than a C. So that's another indication of a decision, a determination that's going to affect the educational outcome of these children. But I did have one success. Can I tell you about that very fast? We set up a reading program that ended up being adopted by the curriculum coordinator. And it was pairing children with their abilities more closely. So we had 7. We had the possibility of dividing them up into 7 groups of very similar reading levels, and that the other teachers agreed, including the black teacher, who was lovely. And we were able in 6 months, and this is my success story, besides teaching discipline, we moved, and this is my class only, 4 of my kids to a 5th grade reading level. I thought that was stellar. Wow. The majority of 4th and 3rd grade reading level, which was great, because at least, grade level. and my non-readers to a first grade reading level. Thrilling. So they went from what's an A to being able to read on a first grade reading level, which is your basic tools. I mean, if someone would work with them, they could continue to progress. Thrilling.
From what you've learned, the big takeaway is what?
Well, there's one more piece in that group. The impetuosity of youth. I wrote a letter to the school board. In fact, I wrote two. One was 10 pages single space, so you can tell I was definitely exercised by that point. I wrote it and sent it to the newspaper, the school board, and the county administration with the concept that if they knew the problems, they would, of course, want to step in and solve these problems and help these children.
How stupid were you?
Stupid. Did anything happen as a result of either of those letters? No. But I felt I had to try. And in a way, that's what this is. I'm determined to tell their story. And let me explain at the back end. I mean, okay, so you're a history buff. This might be interesting. Or you've taught school and, oh yeah, I remember kids like that and things like that, and how did she solve it? That type of thing. But John, there's so much more. This is a cautionary tale because we are fast going into a direction from which I had been. And it's very worrisome.
How do you mean?
Right.
All right, because you've just described a school, and I was fortunate. My folks yanked me out of the government school and put me into a little Catholic school.
Yes.
The nuns beat me incessantly. No, they didn't. It was.
They were rumored to. That was enough.
Sister Severia was 4'2", and she would grab that earlobe, and I actually had to get reconstructive surgery because it was pulled down to here within a year.
I love it.
And it was. They taught me how to read.
Yes.
They
actually
didn't teach me how to be a good Catholic. They taught me how to read.
A gift.
And if I didn't go there, I don't know where I'd be right now. And so and by the way,
agree with that. But look what's happening. We have in different teachers union, in different administrations that are not putting children back into the classroom when the majority of the parents believed it was safe. So we have that. We have political leaders who are pushing the concept of race into every crevice of our society. And we have the critical race theory that's been introduced into classrooms. So you have the victim and you have the oppressor. How can you teach with that structure that's being overlaid on an educational system? And what I'm hoping to do with this is first, of course, raise awareness. But I would like those who are willing to read it, or at least willing to think about these ideas, that they will become champions of Thursday's Children. And they will go out into their own community, and they will look at what is being taught in their own schools and determine that it's the best possible education that these children could have. So I'm challenging them. I want them to become champions of these
If you want to get the book, where's the best place to do it?
Amazon, paperback or Kindle, of course.
And
I'm on
$5,000 a year salary.
Yes. But
a rich pension.
If I had come back, I was going to get a $200 raise.
Liz, thank you so much. I really enjoyed
You're welcome.
this.
Thank you. I did too. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.